Hey guys, and welcome to the second episode of IndieSpot. Basically, in this format I search for some freshly new indie games on itch.io most recent tab. I play them and then I give some suggestions or tips to the developers to make their game better. Today I brought to you guys a game that's called The Tower 2 by Outrun Arcade, and this is a horror game where you are a delivery driver in the Appalachian Mountains and you have to bring some boxes inside of a watchtower. The game starts with the player facing its own car and taking out a note that says to bring all of the boxes inside of the tower, and the recipient of the delivery is called John. What we know about John is that he once was the tenant of the tower, but now he's nowhere to be found. We start taking the boxes up to the tower and we discover that the door to the tower is locked, and a note on the door says that we need to activate the power to unlock it. We do that, and then as we enter the door, a broken radio starts emitting a voice. It's a guy from another tower thinking that we are John.
Tower 2, come in.
We haven't got a way to answer the call since the radio is broken, so the other guy will continue saying something different each time we bring a package into the room.
Where'd you go, John? You take a vow of silence while you were gone or something? Or is HQ still handing out busted radios? Anyway, figured I'd check in. You see my beacon? Red light across the valley. If you get lost in the fog, just head toward that.
And basically this is the main loop of the game. You take a box, you bring it upstairs, you listen to the guy on the radio, and you go take another box. Since this is IndieSpot, I contacted the developer to ask him some questions about the game, but sadly he couldn't reach me on voice chat on Discord, so he wrote me the answers. The first question I asked him was about the inspiration of the game. I wanted to know if the game was inspired by some other games he played, and he said that he really enjoyed playing Firewatch and that it was the main inspiration. He also said that the game was also inspired by its theme, Realm of Nightmares. For the second question, I asked him how long did it took to make the game, and he answered about a week, and that's pretty good if you ask me. The third question was about something said by the guy from the radio.
HQ ever send you those packages you were waiting on? You made a big deal about it before you left. Some personal junk, right? Was it about that thing you kept talking about? That moth creature? You were convinced it only showed up when something bad was about to happen.
So I asked him about the moth creature, and I wanted to know if it was represented in the whiteboard on the tower, and then he answered that according to West Virginia folklore, the Mothman appears when a major incident is about to happen. So John started seeing the Mothman and became obsessed with it. At the end of the game, as soon as you deliver a package into the tower, the guy says to immediately leave the tower because something is about to happen.
John, get out now!
In my playthrough I wasn't able to see what was happening because my only focus was getting down the stairs, as the guy said, but seeing other gameplays I discovered that a plane has crashed on the tower and has killed a delivery driver, so I asked the developer if this plane crash had more lore behind it, and he said there is a meta-narrative in the game. John, the original tenant, left the tower long before you arrived. He had already figured out that something bad was about to happen and left. Mitch, who I think is the name of the guy from the other tower, on the other hand, wasn't able to piece it together until the plane finally crashed into Tower 2. Last but not least, I asked him how does he think he'll end up on the ratings of the Game Jam, and he said, I didn't join to win the Game Jam. In my view, Game Jams help developers focus on finishing projects quickly. Having a set time also boosts creativity because it forces you to think outside the box. That said, placing in the top 10 would be a nice bonus.
John,
But now let's talk about the problems of the game. These are not really big issues, especially since the game is part of a game jam, but I still feel like fixing them would help a lot in improving the player experience. The first problem I want to point out is, like in the last episode, the visibility. The game is dark and the flashlight is too bright. It's probably a shader or a post-process problem, but I would try to decrease just a tiny bit the intensity of the spotlight, especially if it's over 20 lumen, since sometimes you need to turn it off to see something. The second issue for me was the highly repetitive game loop. You take a box, you go upstairs, you listen to the guy on the radio, you go downstairs, you take another box, you go upstairs, you listen to the guy on the radio again, you go downstairs, you get the idea. Now, don't get me wrong, for a game jam project this is totally fine, but on IndieSpot I like to evaluate games as if they were about to be released to a wider audience, and that's why I want to offer some feedback in case the developers decided to expand the project. In fact, that's exactly what I'm doing with my own game, Tonight at Grobnik Lake. It started as a game jam entry, but now I'm turning it into something much bigger than it was before. But back to the issue, I would add some events in the way between the car and the tower room. For example, a step of the staircase that breaks and you have to repair it before going ahead, just to escape the repetitive loop. The last problem I'm going to face is more like a game design decision. In fact, I would add a simple widget that lets the player know when he died, still keeping the style of the pause menu, and by the way, I really like the overall style, especially the hand with the note at the start, and I would have liked to see more of it. I want to thank again the developer for making this video possible. This was IndieSpot with Tower 2, and I'll see you in the next one.